How you doing? How you doing? And how you doing, ladies and gentlemen? It's your boy Patty, and I appreciate you stopping by today. And yeah, we're here to talk about something interesting today. Before we get into all of that, real quick, I just want to shout out this second channel that I'm doing with my family. My brother just got our second video out on that channel out yesterday. I'll put a link to it in the description down below, as well as links for the channel and everything as well. If y'all wouldn't mind giving your boy a little bit of a hand up and go throw a subscription on that new channel, I'd really appreciate it. Alright, so let's talk about what's going on. So this has been almost an ongoing story for the last couple of weeks. It really ramped up when I was on break, and it's steadily, consistently been a thing since then. I thought after the first wave of it, we were going to kind of hear some of the news dying down and everything, but there's a lot of hacking and a lot of account compromisation that's happening with Genshin Impact right now. So what we're going to take a look at today is something super original that no YouTuber has ever done before. We're going to go over a Reddit post. And for whatever reason, from my phone, I was able to see this image that's kind of attached to this post, but when I pull it up on computer, I don't see it at all. So I'd upload it from my phone, pull it up on my PC. So this is actually one of the best diagrams I've ever seen for like account security ever. Like I've already personally saved this to my phone so that I can use it to kind of show and demonstrate password strength to people, because it's when you work in IT, and I did for about 5 years and everything, so I've had to explain this kind of stuff to your everyday normal people a lot of times, and this is one of the best ways that I've kind of seen it really quickly surmised and put in such a digestible way. So this is kind of why I wanted to start out and have it up here. Hold on, let me move it up a little bit so that you know you're not missing anything. We got the full chart here. So this kind of breaks down how quickly your account can be brute hacked, depending on your password. Now the only thing that's happening, but this is the main thing that is happening. And if this happens, then some of the other hacking news that we've seen that gets described in this post can then take place. But it's kind of a linchpin of them being able to compromise your password in the first place. So I want everyone to take a nice hard look at this. And really just soak it in. So for my older people and younger people and everything, something that I found was the best practice, and heard this from other professionals in the IT industry, but like almost short phrases or half phrases are going to be on the really stronger side of the password. You also, in combination with that, want to be throwing in capital letters. You want to be switching out letters for numbers where you can, where it makes sense and everything. Like for E's, you throw a 3 in there. You start going leet speak on it, right? But if you do a silly little sentence, or, you know, part of a sentence with some of that stuff thrown in, you're going to have a password that is going to be very difficult for these brute force things to be able to break. So a lot of people, you know, might use a single word with a mix-in of special characters and numbers, and that's really good. But those type of single phrase passwords are super susceptible to these brute force types attacks, unless you're doing something, you know, really crazy, and you know, you're doing a bunch of symbols, numbers, and then putting the phrase in the middle, and then a bunch of symbols and numbers after that. Then you would be getting down into the green here for sure. But for memory's sake, silly little phrases are a lot easier to remember. So I kind of just wanted to share that little bit of background with you guys, since I know IT and computers a little baby bit. I really just wanted to hammer that home for you guys, and it is a really good way to keep yourself protected, not only in Genshin, but everywhere where you're using a password. Following these kind of steps and adhering to these kind of guidelines will give you a password that is relatively safe. Outside of that, you're looking at, you know, something infecting your computer and potentially having a keylogger on it. That's one of the only ways a password in the green would be compromised. You know what I mean? Or phishing attempts, something like that in those veins. So we just wanted to cover that real fast. Let's take a look at the actual post and go through some of the stuff on here. So, just want to make sure. Okay. Thought I'd messed up and wasn't using the correct mic for a second. You were about to see sheer panic in my eyes. So, there's a little blurb here at the beginning that says, don't take this as definitive proof, but this is what them and a couple other people have put together, kind of surmising a lot of the events and reports that we're getting right now, as well as debunking a few of them. So that's why I felt like it was a good idea to kind of go over this, because not only do we get to touch on internet security and give you guys some tips on how to set up your passwords and everything, and give you a little bit of background of why those things are so important and impactful if you take the right steps. But it'll also let you know which things you don't have to worry about, because they're we'll get into it. We'll get into it. So they shout out some of the people that helped them out with this. Cooking Boy also did another post where he kind of just adds some additional comments and everything like that. It's in one of the first comments on this page. Also put a link to this Reddit post in the description and everything, so that you guys can take a look at it for yourself, because we're not going to go through and read it word for word. We're kind of just going to hit the important bullet points and everything. So my account isn't safe without two-factor authentication at login. That's why accounts are being hacked so much. So again, this kind of falls into, if your password's good enough that it can't get brute hacked in a reasonable amount of human time, two-factor authentication isn't absolutely needed. It's definitely something that is good to have, and, we'll add some security for you, but it's, also not foolproof. If there's been tons of times in cases, not with Genshin specifically, just with other, account stuff, where people are able to, call support and everything and get like the two-factor authentication removed from the account and everything, and been able to compromise it that way. So it does protect you, but it is not the perfect shield. So this is kind of just letting people know to not panic as much about if they're not using two-factor authentication for their login. That as long as you're following the password guidelines to the best of your ability. And I suggest a lot of you, if you're watching this and are like, oh, my passwords ain't that tight, think of your cute new little phrase, baby boo, and then think of some letters and special characters to place around it, and bam, you've got a new password that'll take 20 billion years to crack for a brute force. So, just a tip, So yeah, basically just don't worry if you're not using two-factor authentication and everything like that. Though I would recommend that for like your base Google accounts, your base Facebook accounts, whatever you're using to link, that account itself should be protected in two-factor authentication. So they kind of just go in and talk more about two-factor authentication. This section is more for people that might not know what it is or really understand the layers of security that it's adding to your account. I feel like most people should get that. We'll just kind of breeze past that one. Currently, there is a limited failed password attempts, at which point you are prevented from trying for a period of time. Instead of pure brute force attempts, however, hackers usually just use dictionary attacks or previously compromised account data to get into accounts. If you're using a strong and unique password, it will protect against any of the methods above regardless. See this infographic, and that's probably the one that we were showing here at the top. I don't know why on my phone it was showing it at the top of the thing, and then on PC it doesn't even show up. That's a little weird. So about all the reports of accounts being broken into in the first place, unfortunately and unsurprisingly, just like many popular online services, a large number of Genshin Impact users do not adhere to the best password practices. Basically, this is just saying that people are getting brute force because nobody really takes passwords seriously. And that's fair. That is, nobody really my passwords that I use could probably be a lot stronger. I'm not following the full thing. So, that is the likely culprit, is just that brute forces are behind this being such of a thing. And then there, when people take pictures and share pictures from the game, it can have their user ID and everything, which can also lead to them potentially getting compromised. So it's a thing. There's a fair amount of player information out there, so that kind of stuff mixed in with brute forcing is kind of how we see this stuff coming to light. What's going on with hackers adding unauthorized phone numbers to accounts? Edit, this exploit has been fixed. This was apparently something that was happening that hackers were using after they gained access to an account from cracking the password to basically further try to lock the original owner out of it by adding a new phone number to it, so that the security stuff would fall to them. Sneaky. But it looks like this has been resolved and it's not something to worry about. But, probably wouldn't be a bad idea to skim over it yourself. I heard my email or phone number could have been exposed. Is that a security hole? There was an exploit where the emails or phone numbers of some users were exposed through the forgot password function. Thankfully, not all users were exposed, and both were corrected within respective days that they were discovered and posted on Reddit. While having an email and or phone numbers exposed does increase the attack surface for hackers, meaning the more attack attempts that they can have. And obviously has privacy implications. The login itself should never be counted as part of the security dependency in the first place. After all, we don't hide our email addresses from people to protect them from hackers. So what they're talking about with the attack surface and everything, I had my Security Plus certificate for about 2 years until it expired. Never used it. But essentially everything within the security wheelhouse is trying to reduce your surface area as much as possible in terms of where you can potentially be compromised. So it's absolutely impossible to be 100% safe, 100% secure. So you want to have as small and as controlled of an area as possible that you're aware of, your vulnerabilities. And then, that's where your attention's going to be and everything like that. So that's the general philosophy behind security. I heard about MiHoYo giving accounts to hackers that bought stuff on compromised accounts. In these instances, from the information we have seen, it is extremely unlikely that these accounts were originally obtained by being gifted, traded, or bought. If you are not the original creator of the account you play on, it is very likely you will not be able to recover it if it ever becomes compromised. If you are getting an account that is gifted, traded, any of that, you should assume you're going to lose that account any given day. That's why I don't like those trading things. It's why I'm not a fan of those services. That's why I report them when I come across them. They are such a cesspool, and it's very attractive on the surface because people are like, oh, well, I can just pay $5, $10, and I can play on an account that has Gene. I could potentially spend $100 in the real game and not get Gene. So it's very tempting when you're kind of comparing it financially, and I think that's a large part of why a lot of people look at that and go, oh, okay, yeah, no, this seems reasonable to me. And then when they get the account, they change the passwords, or, they use middlemen to obtain it in the first place, so they feel like there's an added layer of security there. Just never trust those accounts. I don't care how good of a middleman you have, how good the history is. That entire market is like just the scam house. You know what I mean? You can get good accounts out of it. You could potentially not get burned out of it. That is very possible, and that industry needs that to happen a certain percentage of the time so that people don't immediately all go, oh yeah, no, that's scam. It has to look good enough to keep people coming in the door. And that's the simplest way that I can put that stuff. So stay away from those sites. Don't buy accounts, and protect yourself, because doing transactions with those people then also exposes you to them, and they're most likely not involved in the most honorable of networks outside of that immediate transaction they're doing with you. They're probably not, after they log off, finishing that, going and spending time at the animal shelter. Just saying, probably not. Might have a credit card scam too, or ring on the side. Just saying. So, That's my little 2 cents on stay away from that stuff, kids. I'll stop being old man in a minute, I promise. Is it true that I can be hacked from co-op? No, no, no. There's no evidence that even says that this was possible. If this was a thing that was happening, we would see so many more signs for it and indications that it was happening, that it wouldn't be a speculatory thing. It would be yeah, that is definitely a thing that can happen. Worst thing that can happen in co-op is some rando joins your world and then starts stealing your resources, mining your mines, stealing your fruit, something like that. So, be careful about that, but you ain't got to worry about anyone from co-op stealing your stuff. If my account is compromised, I was the original owner of the account, and I am able to get it back through communication with MiHoYo. Is there any rollback or recovery on my account? There's sadly no rollback of recovered accounts that we are currently aware of. There could be something, but we're not aware of it. Feedback, basically let them know if that's happened to you and you did have them re-roll stuff back after confirming that everything was illegitimate, which they would be able to do through like IP addresses and where the account was logged into. If you were a German player and you created your account in Germany and you've only played in Germany and it suddenly logs on in China and a bunch of fraudulent stuff happens with it, they're going to be able to see that, and that stuff I would imagine they'd be able to correct, but they might not. I don't know how they have their systems in place. I don't know if they can do individual character rollbacks, how they would go about that. It really depends on how the game is structured in terms of how things are stored, how resources are put together, how the numbers are ran. So depending on the framework they have in place, that might be possible, or it might not. It could be that the only type of rollback that they can do is server-wide, in which case they're definitely not probably going to do that. They'd definitely don't have the ability to bring up the rolled back server on another server, pull your account from that, and then drop it into the real server. Databases are funny. You would think that that's a thing that you could do, like, oh, we'll just bring the image up on another server, pull it from there, and then move it over. When you're trying to resolve backup issues, that's sometimes a thing that you can do to resolve it. But again, it depends on the databases and stuff like that they're using. That could potentially be a completely impossible Herculean task to ask them, or it could be super, super simple. So best way to not worry about any of it is just having a super crazy password, like your boy was telling you. Why are you removing posts about attacked accounts? The subreddit is entirely ran by fans. Actually, I don't really want to talk about them deleting posts on Reddit. We're going to get into a personal space where my feelings are hurt. Even then, basically, there's a mega thread, and if they've decided they've made a mega thread for something, you better not post anything about that outside of that mega thread, or they'll just nuke it with fire. They are a shoot twice, ask questions never type of Reddit moderation. By which I mean, fuck you, Reddit mods. Are you going to filter posts that talk about security after this? Short answer, no. Long answer, we don't filter something without good reason. Them being mildly annoyed is a good reason to them. If there is a legitimate concern and it is well written and explained in a non-sensational way, we are happy to have it. Posts that are excessively repetitious and don't add anything new to the conversation other than ranting will be considered. If there is a concern that the post is overly dramatic, inciting undue panic, or highly misleading, it may be subject to removal. Nothing super, super crazy there. So you're telling me MiHoYo's security is actually decent, and the reason that people are getting hacked isn't because of MiHoYo's bad security, it's actually because of bad passwords, players using accounts they didn't create. That is such a huge world of buying and selling accounts. Like, it is, there's a lot of people doing that, so don't undersell that as one of the contributing factors. I wouldn't put it anywhere near as being one of the primary ones, but on that pie chart, you can definitely see that slice. Or using previously compromised information. This can't be. You're a shill! Alright, so first off, thank you for reading. Secondly, most of the mod team are not shills. We've said this countless times and we'll likely have to keep saying it forever. We have no official association with to MiHoYo outside of them promoting the sub. Seeing the user base suffer because of bad information and rumors was my primary motivation for doing this. I care about the users of the sub and I want to make sure they're having a good experience. I've spent a lot of time and effort putting this together to benefit everybody. Let me be clear, just because MiHoYo's security isn't terrible doesn't mean it can't improve. There are still many improvements to be made, big and small. However, the point of this post is to calm fears that your accounts could be snatched away at any time. There's a lot of fear and confusion contributing to that. As far as we can tell from the available information, strong unique password is by far the most effective practice to protect your account. Absolutely true. If you're running a strong unique password, you should feel reasonably safe. There are no currently known issues or security failings that would compromise your account outside of all of this. All this being said, if you've discovered a serious security issue, please reach out to one of the admins ASAP. We want to highlight any new legitimate security threat to make it known so that users can be protected. So it wouldn't be in their best interest to fan the flames of this at all, to try and incite people. And honestly, if there was an issue and they were sweeping it under the rug and people were getting compromised right, left, and center, and it was all MiHoYo's fault, the game would suffer, they would die, and then they would be the mods of an empty Reddit. So they want the health of the game. That's something that they keep in mind, you know what I mean, while trying to do their duties. So I can respect that. I definitely, you know, think they're more or less right in a lot of the things that they're talking about here. If you go down to the comments of this video, which some of them are a little live, so I don't want to do that in the video, but there's a couple instances where people are citing of, like, you know, someone that was claiming that they were hacked, that they had been saving up all these resources, but the information that they provided when they were trying to show people that they were a legitimate, kind of proved that they were talking, that they basically had spent it themselves, you know, didn't like Zhongli, and were trying to get a refund, so they were concocting this story and everything to try and pass it off. So there's some legitimate stuff going on. There's a few people trying to take advantage of the situation and capitalize off of it. But at the end of the day, the biggest thing that you can do is make sure your password is as safe as possible. And that is a lesson that you can not only take from this in Genshin, but then also apply it in a lot of other places. So I thought it'd be a good thing to do a video on and kind of just cover. But thank you guys so much for stopping by today. We're going to pretty much call it there. Again, if you could go show some love to that second channel, I would really, really appreciate it. Also could really use some feedback on that channel and everything. My brother is editing for the first time, so as a viewer, we would love to hear from you guys and know where we can improve, where we can tighten up, stuff like that. Just remember, you're talking to people, so if you're gonna be a dick, we're just gonna yeet you out of there. Like that, just no. Be nice, but would really appreciate some constructive feedback. So thank you guys so much for stopping by today. Love your faces. You have to catch your boy in the next one, cause we're out of here. Deuces.